Hey. Back once again. Podcast time 2.3, my favorite. Now, we'll actually spend a lot of time discussing these ideas in class. So you got that going for you. What I need you to do, though, is really focus on the individuals talking about in this section and what they did. So you can see the bigger picture here, the context. Era 2, again, we're looking at 1648, 1815, huge chunk of time to try to narrow down what's going on. So this is all about knowledge, so the spread of scientific concepts and practices. So it's going back to that scientific revolution, and the Enlightenment's application of these concepts and practices to political, social, and ethical issues led to increased. But as always in this class, it's never a universal rule. There's always exceptions and challenges and conflict, as is human nature. Let's move on. Never working to hit the button. Woohoo! So this age of enlightenment, as we introduced with Immanuel Kant, also known as the age of reasoning, really picks up with the idea of questioning what the classics said and what any authoritarian figure said, namely absolute monarchs, aristocrats, so wealthier people, and still religion. Yes, the Catholic Church always, and now you got Lutheranism as a powerful institution, not to mention the many offshoots of there. And so you're almost going to see another revival of reforming the church. But really, it's a call to reform all of society based on reasoning, the idea of thinking for yourself, working it out, trial and error, coming to conclusions based on evidence, everything we do, thesis, evidence, analysis, to better society. So picking up the humanistic approach once again. 2.31, Enlightenment thought, which focused on concepts such as empiricism, skepticism, human reason, rationalism, and classical sources of knowledge, challenged the prevailing pattern of thought with respect to social order, institutions of government, and the role of faith. Oh, that sound means we should probably make sure we know what those terms are. So if something's empirical, we've gone over this before, it means it is data that can be shared with peers or people who study the same thing and ran through the shredder and still proven to be true. I have a hard time with data that the school produces because it's not empirical. It's in cases sugar-coated or selected carefully to create a thought process. So that leads me to be skeptical based on my ability, doubting it, of human reason. I look to be rational and figure out what angle are those in authority trying to play? What do they want from me? And how are they using this data to try to lead me along? And that's, as they use the classical sources both to support knowledge and challenge, just like in the scientific revolution there. And so you'll really see this politically, I think, more than anything else, challenge society. And it gives birth to America, founded on this idea of don't trust authority. It's in our DNA. Wait, in our DNA? Are you suggesting a nationalistic narrative is true? I don't know. What do you think? Chewbacca agrees. Moving on. I threw this on here because really Descartes, to me, is the where the science meets the philosophy. Because he is a science guy, a natural philosophy, but he's also his same ideas of doubting everything and taking things off the table and then reconfiguring them comes back into place. So check that out again. It's short. It's got Nintendo graphics. See, Nintendo was this device used way before those little PlayStations and things like that. Pretty good stuff, though. Pretty good stuff. All right, let's move on. Oh, there's the other one, too, if you want to check that one out. It is, in fact...
It needs to be about 20% cooler.
It is 20% cooler. Whoa, we got a cube. Look at that cube. What's up with that cube? I don't know. Is it a cube? Is it a square? I want to bring this back to thinking outside the box. So if we look at that cube, we might as well put that over your head and then inundate it with information that in some cases you think you're choosing, but you can really, really get in the epistemology, study of where knowledge comes from, by understanding how we perceive information. We talked about it in class, a little bit about schema and neurons firing and things like that. People back then had no idea of these. That's their problem. Ultimately, these things become social controls. And it's easy to take well, yeah, that's good. Laws, these people tell them what to do. We don't want freedom, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, let's not forget that there's rational laws make sense. There's irrational laws that don't. And when there's an irrational law, I'm trying to get in a little poli-sci here for your government class. Once you have that, you then start breaking down the whole social order because people will start to question everything. Some laws are good, others are not. Some customs are good, others are not. Moral codes, whether religious or not. Some social control might be necessary. And again, this will be discussed a lot in class. I use my dogs as an example. And, the media, now, while you sleep, they create your reality. This is something that's debated in this country of what is actual news and what isn't, when it shouldn't. It's clear which is news, and it's called real journalism, not tweets. You can read into that any way you want. All these corporate media companies have one thing in common, that's to turn a profit. And so, of course, they're going to make stories salacious and interesting when they're not. So they focus on news that might not be the most effective news in some cases. And I feel like let's just talk about that in class. Crazy stuff. Fun stuff to think about, though. Ooh, George Orwell. Yes. And this is what the Enlightenment's all about, is seeking truth. Speaking truth to power. A lot of us assume just because authority is authority, they speak the truth. We got to think Machiavelli here, not always the case. So at this point, by the time you see this, we have broken this down. And we start with Immanuel Kant and his writing, What is Enlightenment? To really understand that maturity idea, stepping out, it's hard, it's dangerous, it might not get you successful. But it's really, maybe, how can we define it? By defining it, we do what Kant says. We're putting you right back in the box. But there you go. He has some other ideas as well, the categorical imperative being one of those. Not a philosophy class, so we'll stick to what is relevant with him, which is the Enlightenment. I love the meme. Get it? Get it? Uh-oh. Someone must be home because my dogs are going crazy. That's not one of my fancy buttons. If it was one of my fancy buttons, I don't even know what it sounded. Probably something like this. Yep. Oh. All right. I'm probably going to pause this after this next slide because I'm going to be interrupted. Yes, we can't. Get it? The Obama poster. And then thinking. See, yeah. Who probably doesn't get this in class? I bet there's somebody out there that's probably looking at, why is think in the box? I don't get it. Seems like, I don't know. I don't know. One of you, though. Moving on. We start with our box again. We start with me in the box, right? I'm no better than you. I'm aware that the box exists. However, the next step in this process of understanding thoughts is to understand from our thoughts come words. And so in order to create a society of free thought, we must perhaps have a society of free speech. The First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, the Constitution of the United States. We have one person to thank, or at least he gets credit, a French philosopher, very popular and famous, friends of all the great monarchs of Europe, Voltaire.